When the holidays start to feel a bit repetitive, reach for a Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry and put your twist on tradition. A bold cranberry and winter spice flavor fusion, Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry is a refreshing way to shake things up this sipping season. And only for a limited time. Sprite. Obey your thirst.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Psst, healthcare pros, word's out, and it's too good to keep quiet. Look, LinkedIn is revolutionizing job hunting, making it possible to search by specialty, shift preference, and salary. Endless scrolling is out. Whether it's a mental health therapist or dental hygienist, finding the perfect role is faster and easier than ever. Head to linkedin.com/healthcare and start your search today.
I want so much in my heart to love a Knish because I love everything about it. But I was not finding one that sort of spoke to me, and it just felt like it was ready for a revamp.
This is Taste. I'm your host, Aliza Barbanel. Zoe Kanan is the baker partner of Elbow Bread, a special Jewish-American bakery in New York's Lower East Side. She's produced some of the most important pastries in New York over the past 15 years, from being one of the first ever interns at Christina Tosi's Milk Bar to baking bagels at Siddell's under Melissa Weller and running the bread and pastry programs for the Freehand Hotel. Today on the show, we talk about what it's like to finally have a bakery of her own, developing Elbow's signature pastries, and more. And also on the show, I chat with Taste contributor Grayson Samuels about his work as a writer, actor, and baker in New York, including some of his favorite stories for Taste. Zoe Kanan, this is Taste. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Hi, Aliza. Thanks for having me today.
I'm really excited to talk about baked goods with you. You make some of my favorites in the city.
Thank you so much. That's very kind.
I want to get into a lot of things, but I guess to start, I'm wondering if you would share an early food memory with me from growing up that you think somehow encapsulates your point of view.
I would say I grew up in Houston, so there's a great food city, so there's a lot of different things I could kind of point to, but I grew up as a competitive figure skater, which very much informed my childhood. And so I spent with my mom, a lot of early mornings driving out to the suburbs from kind of near downtown Houston and before school, and then getting breakfast on the way to school. So I spent a lot of time having kolaches early in the morning, bagel sandwiches. We ate breakfast out a lot because we were on the go. And I think spending time in those kinds of establishments really young just sort of built this soft spot for me. So I know that's not super specific, but it's more of kind of this, I don't know, this sort of mealtime memory and connection that I think is somehow has informed where I am today.
Yeah, I love picturing little Zoe with the bangs, of course, I hope, in the car, in all of these places. You mentioned kolaches. I feel like that is such a Texas kind of regional favorite. Can you maybe speak a little bit about what a kolache is and why you think they're special?
Yeah. So it's we use this term in Texas, Czechsin, and it's part of this sort of regional. It's a regional baked good that was born from these immigrant communities from the Czech Republic, Czechia now I guess it's called, and I don't know all the details, made their way to Texas and brought their kind of baking traditions with them. So it is this, it's a baked bun, and it's an enriched dough. So I think it's often made with butter and oil or one or the other or both. And it's really fluffy. It's often baked really pale, so it's really kind of squidgy and soft. That's the first thing I think of. And then it is typically filled with something savory. So, which I think technically has a different name that I'm going to butcher, but it's kolobnik or something like that is the savory one, and kolache is technically the sweet one. But you would find a jalapeno cheese sausage, maybe some scrambled eggs and ham baked inside a bun. So it's kind of the perfect on-the-go breakfast. And the sweet ones would be filled with like maybe prunes and cheese and poppy seeds or something like that. So it's become it's like just a Texas favorite, and there are many outlets and chains that have them. Kolache Factory is probably the most known. It's like a full drive-through setup, and it's like shocking when you leave the state as a young person and realize that these aren't like these don't exist in other places.
Yeah, I had never had one growing up in California. And honestly, when I moved to New York, and there are a couple like Texas kind of expat bakeries like Brooklyn Kolache Co., for example. I think that was the first time that I had a kolache. And it was very much like, okay, I need to see what all the fuss is about here. But I think they're awesome.
Yeah, they're awesome. And they're also like, it's one of those things where they're best, I think, in the place where they were born. It's like you can get excited about them there. I think when you have it out of that place, it's kind of like you're like, okay, this is delicious, but I'm trying to like find what's so amazing about this.
Yeah.
Like it tastes best in Texas, although we do try at Elbow to make a great one too.
Yeah, actually, I think I've had the Elbow kolache amidst all of the other, I think you guys do a lot of like regional or cultural or just kind of like specific beloved baked goods, which I think is really fun.
Yeah, it's true. It's what I am definitely what I'm most drawn to.
Okay, I want to get into that, but I want to just like build up for a second.
Yeah.
So I think of you as like one of the bakers in New York. You've been in so many different places here for, is it like over 15 years now? Probably?
I think it's over 15 years now. Yeah, which is pretty wild to say. But
so did you move here like to work in pastry? Can you kind of walk me through broad strokes your career?
Yeah. I let's see. I moved here pretty much right after high school. I didn't really go to college. I like applied to a bunch of colleges and like didn't have like a strong sense of what I wanted to do. Was enrolled in a few different places for a bit, but ultimately kind of landed on this realization that I just wanted to work in food really young. So I would say at 19, even 18, I had the sense that that's where I was headed, and was able to kind of get myself into culinary school here in New York. So I went to the French Culinary Institute. I guess it doesn't exist now. It like merged, I think, with another one. And I studied pastry there, but I guess it was good to like get some direction about how to work in a kitchen. But the main thing I remember from that experience was being told that I was bad at following directions, which stuck with me for like to this day. Clearly, that really, and I was like, okay, maybe I can use that to my advantage somewhere down the line. So while I was in school there, I got a job working at Milk Bar, and so this would have been in like 2009. It was still a pretty young business, I think, within its first year of being open, and I just worked. I got a job front of house there as kind of a counter girl, and eventually worked up the courage to tell them that I was in culinary school and was like ultimately interested in working in the kitchen, and started interning there, and then eventually was hired there as a pastry cook after school, and I worked there for a couple of years. I definitely think my time there informed a lot of my just kind of approach and perspective and what Elbow is today, really. But so yeah, I was there working for a couple of years, and also got a job at 420 Blackbirds at that time, and made pie. Really learned, like, dug deep in pie technique, and then let's see, I worked at the Nomad briefly on the like opening team at the Nomad, which was a big, I would say a much different kitchen environment than where I'd been before.
Previously, you were at kind of like bakery like dessert places primary is the focus. And
Yeah.
the Nomad is this big restaurant that has a pastry department.
Pastry department, lots of money as well. And I would say this like added level of, it was really refined and also like very serious. And I think I learned through that experience that I was most drawn to environments that were like a little bit more casual in terms of style. It just worked better for me. So I ended up from there at Mile End, which used to have this commissary in Brooklyn where they baked all of their bread. And that was sort of my first experience with kind of Jewish American baking and exploring that and kind of viewing that in line with some of the other like more like sort of French technique, whatever it is you're learning in culinary school. So then from there, I went back to Milk Bar and I did wedding cakes for a few years and eventually left and worked at Ronnie Brook Dairy.
You're just throwing out names that I didn't even...
I know. I'm like, it's very much a like 2010s sort of world that we're existing in here. And I made ice cream in Chelsea Market for Ronnie Brook that were like flavors that were just served in the market. And that was fun because it gave me a chance to kind of flex a creative muscle. And then I went to Sadel's from there, which was a good opportunity. It was like a sous chef opportunity, and was able to work on this like kind of big restaurant opening.
Lots of bagels,
lots of baked goods. It was like this like continuation of kind of the like Jewish American baking education from Mile End, and really just like refining techniques, learning about sourdough. Learning so much while there from working under Melissa Weller, who's so skilled and technically like super savvy and smart. And so I was there for a while and then went to work for Michael White at Vaucluse, a restaurant on the Upper East Side. That was like a great community of people, and that was my first kind of head baker job. So I got to run my own little baking program there, and then went to work for Happy Cooking Hospitality with Gabe Stulman, and opened the Freehand Hotel.
I think that was the first time that I had your pastries. Which
Yeah.
Now I'm like, I was a decade late to the game, I guess.
I mean, I
had to move here.
Exactly. Yeah, it was. That was a big moment for me. Being part of it was a really big opening. It was sort of, I was able to kind of step forward and put my, create my own recipes, and also drawing from the many techniques and experiences I'd had leading up to that, and just sort of like use my voice for the first time in developing the menus for those places, and was a big kind of confidence building moment for me.
Yeah, I was working at Bon Appetit at the time, and I remember doing the press for the opening, and you were a big part of that. And I imagine it must have been interesting, like working in the industry in New York for so long, to have the moment when like your name is really kind of being forefronted, and you're in the photos, and the things you've created are being talked about in that kind of way.
Yeah, it was really exciting, and it was also like the place was being like packaged, which was something I hadn't really experienced for the first time, like sort of being part of that, and feeling a lot of, just sort of feeling like what my ideas and my contributions like had value to this place sort of overall, was really incredible feeling, and also getting to collaborate with some of the chefs there and work in this like beautiful dining room too, and have the presentation of everything was so nice. But yeah, hotels are complicated places to work in. There's so many elements to that, and kind of a continuity I think in my experiences too is kind of New York specific, as bakeries. Like baking within a restaurant context is super specific, I think, to here. And trying to make baking happen in, next to a hotline.
Yeah, a place that has not been built specifically for that.
Yeah, exactly. And I really advocated for the bread and baking program there. Gabe was really looking for a pastry chef, and I was like, what about a baker instead?
I mean, I feel like when I travel bakery, maybe just because I love to eat baked goods, but that's the thing I structure my whole day around. And I think to be visiting New York and have a really quality bread program and baking program where you're staying, that is such a huge advantage in a way that dessert obviously is great, but I don't think it doesn't set the tone for the whole day. Obviously, it's the final thing.
It's the final thing, right? It's the cap off. Yeah, and they were, they really wanted to entice people to stay within the building and, have their meals there and have something really sort of boutique and thoughtful and something that stood up to the rest of, what was on offer in the city. It was a big experience for me having my own small team there too and learning so much about that.
Does that take us up to the pre-Elbow era?
Yes, exactly. Okay. So then COVID happens, and I ended up going kind of being confronted with this moment of freelance work, which was not unique to me. Many people experienced that, of course, and figuring out what to do. So it was a big time of experimentation and trying different things. I worked on on developing recipes for a cookbook with Christina, kind of reignited with her a little bit and developed recipes for a book, and then started my pop-up Zoe's Doughies, which was kind of the first time I was able to pull ideas together and had to think about a lot of different elements of putting baked goods out into the world that were often just kind of taken care of for me.
Yeah.
Before
this is the preeminent bagel donut combined pop-up in New York.
Exactly. It's still just kind of trying to make baking happen in spaces that aren't meant for it. But learning how to be really savvy and scrappy and kind of make it work, which is part of the fun of it.
If you're like me, your skin needs some extra care this time of year. All that cooking for family and friends has me busy dipping into my favorite cookbooks.
And Matt, I've been spending so much time in the kitchen trying to perfect my roast chicken. How hot it is all the time, it's doing a number on my skin.
Yeah, man, I've been working through a bunch of these new cookbooks, including David Leibowitz's re-release of Ready for Dessert. Now, I've been eyeing his nectarine raspberry upside-down gingerbread cake, and I made a couple batches of his buckwheat chocolate chip cookies. Honestly, the cookies turned out great, but in the end, all that time with the flour and the dough, my skin is a wreck. That's why I've continued to rely on OneSkin. I love their OS1 body formula, and it's been invaluable to have a daily routine that delivers both powerful skincare and longevity benefits, all in just a few simple steps. OneSkin also just launched their limited edition holiday sets, including the Nightly Rewind gift set, which is one of those rare gifts that's both impressive and genuinely useful, providing an upgrade to anyone's nightly routine. Featuring their best-selling face moisturizer and their new peptide lip mask, each component of the set is designed to work together as your body enters its natural nightly repair mode, helping renew skin at the cellular level for a stronger, smoother, and more resilient skin. For a limited time, try OneSkin for 15% off using promo code TASTEPOD at oneskin.co. That's promo code TASTEPOD at oneskin.co. This episode is brought to you by Aura Frames. If you're one of those last-minute shoppers, you might know the feeling. Ideas are running low and the clock is ticking. Aura Frames is the solution with a gift that feels personal and can be purchased in no time. Aura Frames are great. They sent me one to check out, and it was really cool and dumb simple to set up. I loaded photos using the app, and it was displaying them instantly. There are no limits to the amount of photos you can load, and you can customize messages with each photo. And here's the deal. You can preload an Aura frame with photos and have it directly sent to that special person in your life, gift wrapped and all. There will be no price tag, and you can include a personalized message. Think about it. All those photos from this past summer's family reunion delivered in a digital frame. That is pretty cool. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter by using promo code TASTE at checkout. That's AURAFrames.com, promo code TASTE. The deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. This episode is brought to you by Tempo. We are all really busy this time of year, and sometimes cooking is not an option. Though we crave a healthy, creative, home-cooked meal that an Uber Eats delivery or slice of pizza isn't going to satisfy. Tempo is a smart solution. Delicious pre-made meals, creative and always interesting, arrive to your door perfectly portioned for lunch and dinner and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. I recently gave Tempo a try and I was super impressed. The 3-cheese broccoli chicken orzo with roasted honey carrots was exactly what I wanted after a busy day interviewing chefs and writers in the podcast studio. Sometimes you just don't want to think about dinner. And honestly, I'm one of those people sometimes, and Tempo was the solution. With 20 meals available for delivery each week, mealtime is never boring. And for those macro counters out there, Tempo is a smart option. For a limited time, Tempo is offering This Is Taste listeners something pretty amazing. 60% off your first box. That's 60%, which is pretty close to free. Visit tempocooking.com/taste for 60% off your first box. tempocooking.com/taste. Rules and restrictions may apply.
And then I was working in Mexico City for a little while at that time, doing some consulting for like Jewish deli and bakery there now called Mendel, which was, I wasn't expecting to be like traveling internationally during that time. And yeah, that was also just super inspiring to get to bake in a different place, really.
Yeah, that has its own like super rich and delicious baking tradition. That's so different than New York.
So different from New York, and it was really funny because my role was to kind of like bring New York to that, like bring a sort of New York taste to that place, and I see why people why there's sort of a desire for a place like that there, but I was always trying to seek out other things. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was fun to bake at altitude too. That was a new experience for me.
Oh yeah. Did you have to make a lot of adjustments?
A lot of, I did, but it was interesting with the bagels. It was kind of like, I actually really enjoyed baking them there because water boils really quickly.
Oh.
So I was like quicker to being able to drop them in the water and get them baked. And yeah, because bagels are such a dense dough, typically, at least in the style that I was doing, they weren't so affected by the kind of like leavening challenges that often exist with adapting for altitude. So I was sort of lucked out in that way. But with other things like chiffon cakes and some other like pastry items that I was working on, it was a challenge. But I was fortunately working with a team of bakers there too that
they knew what to do.
They knew what to do.
And then you came back to New York.
Then I came back to New York and I was in Paris a little bit with Susan Kim at Early June.
Oh yeah, of the great Korean pop-up doshi.
Yes, doshi, which is incredible. And we're hoping to have Susan at Elbow sometime soon.
Oh, I would love that.
I got to do some baking there, and I think had some other consulting work. It just I started to realize that I am the kind of person that like really needs something, I think, to orbit around, and was just feeling a little bit like it was amazing to have these different sort of opportunities come up, or they wouldn't come up, and I would have to sort of be like, okay, well, what am I filling my time with now? So that experience, I think, led me to the realization about myself and just the kind of person that I am, that I really needed to be a little bit more grounded. And so that is what leads us to Elbow.
Okay, I should have known that asking somebody with your career to give like an overview would be like a huge chunk, but I really love getting to hear about all these different experiences that I think like coalesce and combine to allow you to be able to open a bakery that I think really does have a singular point of view and like pastries and desserts and baked goods that you really can't find anywhere else in the city. And I'm curious, when you sat down that you knew you wanted to open up your own bakery, if this was the vision, how you kind of decided what Elbow would become.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it Elbow kind of happened in it was sort of a bit of happenstance, I would say. I was thinking just sort of like vaguely about the kind of business I would want to have. And I knew off the bat that I am kind of a collaborator at heart, and I love working with other people. I love bouncing ideas off of other people. And I think I feel like I know what my strong suits, where they lie, and like to like to work with people who I think are kind of complementary to me in that way, and that I can be to them as well. So I knew I wanted to find partners. And I just started thinking about other places in New York that I liked. And this, the idea of like S&P also opened while I had been out of New York, and was feeling, when I came back, I was feeling, I was just going there all the time to catch up with people, and loved the environment there, and how they kind of brought Eisenbergs into their universe, while also really like preserving, I think, the soul of that place.
Yeah, this is the revamped version of this long-running Jewish deli, Eisenbergs, that the Court Street grocers guys came in and took over, which also Court Street, like, their sandwiches to me are the best sandwiches in New York.
Yeah, I'm so happy to hear you say that. I feel similarly, and my partner is also always like, I'll like come home and find a Court Street like sandwich wrapper at home, and I'm like, you ordered a sandwich on DoorDash from Court Street today for lunch. He like can't get enough.
What's the sandwich he gets?
He loves the vegetarian.
Yes,
yeah, which
that's
is
mine.
It's so. I mean, it's so. I think of it as basically like a cheese sandwich.
It's a squash sandwich, thank you very much. But it does have a lot of cheese on it.
It has a lot of cheese. And now I'm like, is it sweet potato? I feel like they changed it at some point.
I mean, no disrespect to your partner, but I think I've eaten the most vegetarians in New York, probably. I think it's squash.
It is so delicious. And yeah, I think it's like, I was just like, what are the places that really like stick in my mind? And like, why is it that I like those places was how I started thinking about it. And I like places that don't kind of take themselves too seriously, but also have this like very real ambition to like put something good with quality out into the world. So yeah, S&P, and I was there, actually was having lunch with my friend Diana Dowhung from Black Seed, who I worked with at Mile End years ago, and is like just a good friend and like sort of mentor of sorts. And I really trust her opinion. And we were just talking about stuff like that. She, as an owner of Black Seed, is, which is a much larger entity than Elbow, but yeah, we were just sort of talking about what that life is like. And I think even mentioned to her that I could be interested in reaching out to Matt and Eric and seeing if they might be willing to have a conversation with me. And I don't know if it was just like saying that out loud in their space or something. But before I had the chance to reach out to them, they actually reached out to me. And in this like sort of Bashert moment, and that was kind of the genesis of Elbow. And the reason they reached out is because they learned about this specific space becoming available.
Yeah, and this space was where Mel the Bakery was before, and I thought it was such a perfect location for a bakery. And so when they closed and ended up moving upstate, I was so curious about who was going to move in. And I really wanted it to be another bakery. So I, for one, was very excited when I found out that you guys were moving into that space.
Yeah, it's true. It's such a special little spot. It's such a quaint like little storefront. It like looks like it is, I don't know, it looks like it's just sort of like painted onto this corner of the building, or an elbow of the building as we call it.
Is that where the name comes from?
That's where the name comes from.
Oh, I've been wondering this whole. I just thought, I was like, it's Zoe. It's like
it's
quirky.
Yeah.
It could have been, I guess, Kneecap also.
It could have been Kneecap.
That could be your second one.
Exactly. Second location, Kneecap. But Elbow also kind of works with Ludlow. So we need to figure out what street, like Knickerbocker.
It's going to be the most like reverse engineering way to pick a bakery location.
Exactly, which would be perfectly appropriate, I think, for my approach to business. But yeah, we kind of, the first time we really met to talk about opening a business together was when we were going to look at the space. That was the level of
no pressure.
Kind of like, yeah, 3 sheets to the wind was sort of the approach. And
did they come to you with ideas about what they wanted the bakery to be, or did they just say, you let us know what you want?
They basically were like, you let us know what you want. But I think they also had a sense of like what I at least had done in my sort of work experience leading up to that. And I certainly had that for them as people who have, actual businesses in the world. And so I think we both felt like it was likely that we would align.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, do we make sense as people together? Do we like each other? Do we like the people sort of behind the work? Was a super, super, super important part of it to me. I brought my godfather with me, who is like a very close person in my life. And he is, I like always trust his opinion. So I wanted a second opinion on Matt and Eric when we met. And they got his stamp of approval, which was a good sign for me. But yeah, it was an open house, and we went to look at the space and ran into a few other people there who now have bakeries in New York too.
That's so crazy. It's like when you go to like an open house and you see all the other, like for an apartment, and you see the other couples that are trying to get it, and they look like they have more money than you.
Exactly.
It's who's going to get it?
Who's going to get it? And it's like, how is this? It's like you could roll the dice and this all could have panned out differently.
Yeah.
It's like one of those moments where it just felt like, okay, it feels like fate is at play here in some way.
I mean, I think to talk about just the menu itself and what Elbow sells, we've been talking about this kind of Jewish American bakery refrain, which I think is very much at play. And I think it's very fitting, it's Beshert, right, to be having a Jewish American bakery in the Lower East Side and this neighborhood that has so much of that history, but that, maybe isn't as present today.
Yeah, exactly. And that was like when I learned about, when I realized the location after Matt and Eric got in touch with me, it like that also just felt like a sign because I knew that the business that I opened would like have this kind of like Jewish American sort of through line and to the baked goods. And so when I realized exactly where it just was kind of another like light bulb going off that just was like, this feels like it is, things are sort of falling into place with this opportunity. And the menu, the list of like the long list of potential menu items, the like notes app document that I have is really unhinged. We also had to very quickly decide like what the concept would be and how to sort of explain it, because we were like, in this scramble to like throw our name in the ring to get the space. So we had to kind of put together like what the menu would be and what the concept would be, and very, very quickly. And yeah, but the list of menu items is pretty crazy. But one of the first items on the menu was Knish.
I love this Knish so much.
I was like, okay, I'm going to use the Knish as kind of like my North Star for what the rest of the menu is going to be.
Okay, why Knish, and then how did you land on your version of it? Because your version is like a very distinct but perfect version to me.
Thank you. It's Knishes are, I grew up having them occasionally in Texas at this deli called Kenny and Ziggy's, which is like a big fixture of Houston. And there's this whole documentary called Deli Man, I think, about Ziggy, who's one of the owners. And so I had Knishes on the menu there, and they were homemade. And it was the kind of thing that appealed to me as a kid because it's like potatoes baked in dough.
Starch on starch.
Exactly. Is like sort of a dream dish, a dream baked good. But I basically was like, it feels in New York especially like a fixture of Jewish baking, but you wouldn't really know that from the way that they like it's hard to sort of, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So like Jonas Schimmel, for example, is a very famous Knish bakery on Houston. Yeah. Honestly, I don't know if it's still open because whenever I walk by it, it's closed. But in 2017, when I moved to New York, I moved to that neighborhood. I would always be walking down the street craving a Knish. And you receive it, and I say this with love, but it just doesn't look good. It's like a grapefruit.
Yeah.
It's like kind of soggy. Like it's like wrapped in like, I don't know, some sheet of paper. Like it's just like, in theory, really good, but in practice, it's like a lot for one person to eat, you know?
Exactly. And it's like, yeah, so maybe
Did I say that okay?
I think you said that. You took the words out of my mouth, basically. And I think I want so much in my heart to like love a Knish. Because I love everything about it. But I was not finding one that sort of spoke to me. And it just felt like it was ready for a revamp. And we see that with so many, obviously you see that with bagels. And Knish are never like at the level of bagel as far as like.
Are people like a dense food, I would say.
Yeah.
It's the densest food.
The densest foods, the most filling foods, and also like made with inexpensive ingredients. So yeah, I knew off the bat that I identified that as something that I felt like would just be easy to improve upon. And
so what is the elbow Knish in its current form?
So the elbow Knish in its current form is made with this. I started with the filling, which is made with roasted Yukon Gold potatoes. So we just started by roasting the potatoes rather than like boiling or steaming them. So they just taste more potato-y. And then I decided to add sauerkraut for some balance, like a little bit of acidity. And then to sort of match that, we added caramelized onions for some sweetness. And then a ton of dill. And I think fresh dill I was like, the Knish is just like desperate for something fresh about it. Yeah. And so the dill just made so much sense. I'm always using like a dill with a heavy hand. So to me, it seemed like a normal amount of dill, but it's since been described as very dill heavy.
It gives it like a chicken noodle soup feel. Is there any schmaltz in it?
There's no schmaltz in it.
It tastes like it to me.
Yeah, it has that. It has a lot of clarified butter in it, and so I think that is. It's golden in a similar way. Yeah. And then we use a ton of black pepper because I think often with these foods you find that they're sort of like lacking freshness or they're lacking seasoning. So I started with that approach. And then I went to the pastry and I did some research before sort of embarking on developing the recipe, I use the Ratner's cookbook a lot.
I don't know it.
Yeah, Ratner. So Ratner's was a like a kosher dairy restaurant that was on the Lower East Side for many years, and I'd also had on my list to work on an onion roll, which was they were really known for. And I think you just like got onion rolls with your meal. It was like a bread basket kind of thing. And it was like dried onions, rehydrated maybe, and baked into challah. And so I had that on my list as something to work on. And I was just looking through their cookbook and saw they had like a Knish dough recipe. They had a strudel dough recipe. And so I decided to just try different pastries. And I'd done them before with almost like a pie dough, but it just like wasn't, I wanted it to be crispier.
Yeah.
And just kind of work on its texture game because it is prone to being so soggy. So after some like experimentation, I ended up kind of using the Ratner's strudel dough recipe as it's like right next to the Knish dough recipe in the book or something as a jumping off point, and made the first ones in my apartment, like on my coffee table, putting like a sheet down. It's very like theatrical, and yeah, it just was like it felt so perfect as a concept to be like making that like on the corner of Canal and Ludlow, and just there's just this theatrical element to it that makes everyone like I was just excited to bring that to a production environment, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And the other element of not to talk about the Knish for all podcasts, but I do think it's so perfect. The size of it also I think is really cool because it's maybe like palm size depending on if you have a smaller hand.
Yeah.
Which is maybe half the size of what I would expect it to be.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, and I think that also helps with the crispy sort of, goal that we have for like maintaining that kind of like diversity of texture. But yeah, they get really, really soggy. I think also at Yonah Shmuel, they microwave them, which
probably do, yeah.
Which is nice to have it warm. But then you do lose like any texture that it once had. So I wanted to make them smaller, also mainly because I wanted people to be able to have more more things on our menu, rather than just like, okay, the Knish is what I'm gonna eat today.
Yeah, over like 3 meals of the day.
Exactly. And to like, leave them wanting more.
Okay, I'm glad we got to go deep on this. And now I have to ask you about my other pet favorite menu item, which is the walnut sandwich.
Yes.
What the fuck?
That was another one that was like very, very early on in the like menu development.
Can you give us the breakdown of what's in it?
Yeah. So the sandwich itself is on our black bread, which is a sourdough bread that we make that is seasoned with anise and caraway. It's a sourdough bread. It uses a rye sour. And so we do loaves of that. Then we slice it pretty thinly, and it has a layer of Ben's cream cheese. Then it has a layer of dates that have been kind of pressed into this like thin. We use medjool dates, so they're really like sticky and gooey. And then it has this walnut butter, which is like walnuts that are ground down into a nut butter with a little bit of brown sugar and salt. And then I think like the key element is that we fold in this fouilletine, which is a pretty common pastry ingredient. You see it in like entremets. You see it in French and like Viennese desserts. And it's just this like flaky, crispy crepe. And it kind of tastes like a fortune cookie or like
wafer.
Like it just has kind of a blank slate taste. And so we fold that into the nut butter, and that is a layer in the sandwich. And that's the sandwich. And it has about 12 like references, I would say, in terms of like how it came to be as an entity.
I'm
But
picturing your like walls with sandwiches up on them and like the yarn connecting them all together.
That's my brain.
What was like the
totally my brain.
Genesis sandwich?
The Genesis sandwich.
We're getting so biblical.
I know. I mean, this is like, but truly, this is like how I think about this stuff. And then I have to try to like, okay, and now we're gonna produce this in the bakery every day.
At scale, yeah.
Exactly. But so the Genesis was. This is like similar to Ratner's, like looking at these kind of like slightly deeper cuts of like New York like food culture with like Jewish elements. So chock full of nuts was, you see it in the grocery store as like a coffee brand.
Yeah.
They started as like a nut, like a hot nut like street cart.
Oh, you're kidding. That makes so much sense.
And so then they like evolved from that, their business, into these like cafes. And they used to serve coffee and like a little bit of food. I think they also served nuts, but they were like very much like a morning, like, you know, commuter like spot where you would get your coffee. I think like Heavenly Coffee or something. They had some like slogan like that. And they had 2 sandwiches and they were sweet sandwiches. So one was on this. The sandwiches are like very similar, but one was on date nut bread, and then it had a layer of cream cheese, and that was the whole sandwich.
Okay.
So like you could say, is that a sandwich or is that just like a piece of bread with something like smeared on it? But I guess if it's closed face, then
yeah, it's a sandwich.
We won't get into that. And then they had another one. Oh, they had another one, and I can't remember what bread the other one was, but it was a raisin bread, I think. And then it had cream cheese that had walnuts like folded into it. So these were like their 2 sandwiches. And so I knew I wanted to use, I was like thinking about things my grandmother would have for breakfast and like the sort of the like things that you see on deli menus and like the coffee shop section, like things that like elderly people order. I just am like drawn to those kind of dusty corners of menus. And so I knew I wanted to use those flavors in something. I love cream cheese too and sneak that into so many things. So I started working with Kirsten Brewer, who is the chef at S&P, and we did a little bit of R&D together.
They have a cream cheese sandwich on their menu.
They do, with olive. They have like an olive.
Yeah, I've never ventured to try that one, but I respect that they do it.
They do it, and like I think there are people that still go there that like that's their order.
I've seen it, yeah.
I
couldn't look away.
I'm like, I want the little Shonda and pancakes and a Diet Coke. But
I get tuna melt, rugelach.
Tuna melt, rugelach. Yeah, Larry's rugelach. Yeah, so I was telling Kirsten about this sandwich, and so I was like, I want to rework it some way. So we tried it. We tried putting dates in the black bread, which was good, but because you have to bake sourdoughs like so hot and for a long time, they were kind of like burning, and it just seemed complicated to get that right. And so we ended up just kind of going in a date paste direction and making this nut butter. And I'm trying to remember, the idea of the fouilletine was like just kind of a like I don't know, it just came from within. I don't know how I like maybe we were eating it and I was like, it's so rich, it needs texture, like it needs something to break it up a little bit, because nut butter and cream cheese together is like not necessarily, like in my head I might be like, oh, that is gonna be too over the top.
Yeah.
And it kind of is, but I think
the bread
works.
really helps also because it's this like savory, hearty bread.
Exactly. And like crusty. So yeah, so folding fouilletine into nut butter was a technique I first learned at Milk Bar. And it was something we used in a cake. We made this banana cake and it had a layer of, it was like hazelnut praline with fouilletine folded, which is like the most common application I've seen for that. So yeah, it was like, that was always my favorite part of that cake. And why not bring that into this other sort of format of a sandwich, which is kind of like a layer cake.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. It's such a full circle moment too.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are my pet favorites on the menu. Is there anything that you guys are doing that you think is a pet favorite of yours right now, or is something that you think is kind of special?
Yeah, I mean, I feel so. I was talking to my bakers, I was talking to the Elbows bakers the other day about this because we we have such a long menu, and they're always negging me because I feel like we have so much on our menu, and I am just I don't know how to take things off. I know how to add things,
Yeah.
and I struggle to remove things. And we have so many regulars, and I don't want to disappoint them or take away their favorite thing. But I would say right now, I love our cake donuts that we're doing on the weekends, which are not necessarily so specific to, to the kind of Jewish American elements of the menu that are kind of the mainstay, like the bialys and
Onion roll.
the onion roll, which is became a scallion knot, and the rugula and babka and all of that is really core menu items. And then the donuts are something that we do on the weekends.
Yeah.
And we do these cake donuts, which is I was never a cake donut person before, but worked out a donut for that, doing pop-ups because it's easier to execute than a yeasted donut on the day of, and just kind of fell in love with them in that process. And that's been a really fun one because it's always on the menu, but we are changing the flavors every few weeks.
That sounds like a nice thing for your staff because then you can get the itch of doing something new, but it's an ever-evolving thing. I had one over the summer that was I guess it was early fall. The corn, what was that?
Yeah, the cornbread.
The cornbread donut.
Yeah.
I just knew when I saw that, that just speaks to my soul. And it's it's also that kind of salty, sweet, combination. What's the seasonal version of that you're doing right now?
So right now we're doing our triple apple cider is what we call it, which is the first one we ever did. And it has apple butter in it. It has reduced cider in it. It's glazed with cider jelly. It's pretty commonplace that so many of the things we make have all these different additional steps to them. The cornbread was I feel we really had a corn dessert moment this
I think
summer.
Corn desserts have been on the come up for the past couple summers, and this summer was easily the most corn desserts I've experienced, which I really like corn as a dessert flavor, so I think that's why I was so excited about the donut.
Yeah, and I know that it exists in desserts, in so many desserts.
Yeah, and then Korea, it's very popular.
In Korea, yeah, and all kinds of Asian desserts too. And and it's a flavor that I think of too. At Milk Bar, we made the corn cookie, which was always my favorite cookie.
Yes.
And so it's been part of the sort of mental pantry of flavors that I bring with me. And yeah, I think I was inspired in part by this. I wanted to use sweet corn. I wanted to use this cornmeal from Patrick at Brooklyn Granary, which is a really, really beautiful, freshly ground cornmeal. And just bring in the sweet, savory element. And it has tons of fresh corn pureed into it too.
Yeah, that's so great. I'm curious, it's been, I guess, almost a year since opening.
Yeah.
What does it feel like at this stage? Is it what you imagined it would be?
It's so, we just had our 1-year anniversary at the end of October. And it's so hard for me to answer that because it's been the longest and shortest year ever. That's been my my phrase that I've been using. Because similarly to today, I feel since the bakery opened, I just kind of started talking, and I never stopped talking for the entire year, in many different capacities. So I feel it kind of rewired my brain in a lot of ways. But it feels I think I had no idea what it would feel like. To I had like seen people running businesses and been part of the team behind that. And I was also worked in a lot of places that were kind of like owned and like were operated by the people who own them. And that those were the places that I was always like the most drawn to. And I think it's felt really good to just have this kind of like build this universe where I can like all the ideas that I have had and developed can just kind of live in this world. That's how it started out. And then what's been like such a wonderful like experience is getting to see how like it really takes shape based on the people that work there and their contributions and how like we work together and the ideas that they bring, the improvements that they bring. And then also as someone who used to do a lot of pop-ups and like go into other people's spaces, being able to like be a place that can host that.
Yeah. I think Elbow has really become in a year one of the bakeries that seems to be hosting people the most when people come in from out of town and they want to do a pop-up somewhere. It's really nice to see that kind of sharing happening.
Yeah, it's so much fun. It's one of my favorite things about the baking community, although we do collaborate with people who are like outside of the baking world too. But yeah, it's so much fun to get to invite those people in and just have a mind meld and just grateful that we have enough of an audience there that people like come out for these things.
Yeah.
too.
I'm curious, you know, being someone who's worked in so many of these different spaces in New York over the past 15 years, like what does this current moment in the New York City baking scene feel like to you?
It's so like I loved going to look at the Elbow space and like running into other bakers who were opening their own places, and most of them like for the first time. It feels like we're really in this heyday of baking, and there's always been, I've seen a lot of like that's been mentioned a lot, and I've seen some pushback on that too, saying that there's always been great baking in
yeah, there was like the cupcake era. And
exactly.
the Magnolia Bakery era, but
yeah, like cronuts, and I mean, I think about City Bakery and I love the baked goods there. That's always been
the chocolate cookie,
the coconut cookie.
Yeah, but I think the amount of independent, small, like baker-owned bakeries or restaurant groups that are partnering with bakeries, I do think this moment is different.
I agree. I think it's I think there's you see that arrangement a lot more. And when I opened Elbow, I talked to other baker friends who are in similar partnerships to just learn more about how that works. And yeah, it's exciting that restaurant groups and people want to back these spaces, and it's great that there's, I think, precedent now for those kinds of businesses thriving and being successful. And yeah, I think there's a lot of like personality and experimentation. Those are like two words that I think of, and like that's what I love and what I like strive to bring to Elbow, and try to like encourage that too with the people that bake within Elbow. And I love seeing that in a lot of the bakeries that are opening in New York now.
I love that.
Today's episode is brought to you by Our Place. Now, Clayton, let me ask you, what's your pots and pans setup looking like?
Well, you know, I have a few cool pieces that you could call vintage if you're being very, very nice. But honestly, I do think I need an upgrade.
Yeah, man, I was kind of in a similar place myself, and I recently went on a search for the perfect sauté pan. I read all the Wirecutter and Reddit pages and landed on the Our Place website. I liked how their cookware looked. It was minimal though functional, with a color palette that matched my own aesthetic. And I really liked that they make better kitchen products that are simply better for you. Our Place makes high-performance, toxin-free cookware. It's that simple. Their products are made without forever chemicals like PFAS and PTFEs. I had to Google that, and man, that stuff is nasty. So you can cook confidently without wondering what's in your pan. Stop cooking with toxic cookware and upgrade to Our Place today. Visit FromOurPlace.com/taste and use code TASTE for 10% off site-wide. With a 100-day risk-free trial, free shipping and returns, you can experience this game-changing cookware with zero risk. That's FromOurPlace.com/taste and use code TASTE for 10% off site-wide. This episode is brought to you by OneSkin. If you're like me, your skin needs some extra care this time of year. All that cooking for family and friends has me busy dipping into my favorite cookbooks, like Von Vreeland's latest about cookies. I'm really loving what this guy does with coffee in his cookies. Coffee, it seems, is the secret to winning a holiday cookie competition. This busy season also has my skin in a pretty interesting place. Baking 3 dozen Linzers will do that. That's why I've continued to rely on OneSkin. I love their OS1 body formula, and it's been invaluable to have a daily routine that delivers both powerful skincare and longevity benefits, all in just a few simple steps. OneSkin also just launched their limited edition holiday sets, including the Nightly Rewind gift set, which is one of those rare gifts that's both impressive and genuinely useful, providing an upgrade to anyone's nightly routine. Featuring their best-selling face moisturizer and their new peptide lip mask, each component of the set is designed to work together as your body enters its natural nightly repair mode, helping renew skin at the cellular level for a stronger, smoother, and more resilient skin. For a limited time, try OneSkin for 15% off using promo code TASTEPOD at oneskin.co. That's promo code TASTEPOD at oneskin.co.
Oh, Hilton stay, your beds are soft and cozy. No lumpy couch, no stiff futon, no shower line at crack of dawn. Oh, Hilton stay, oh, Hilton stay.
When you want holiday comfort you can count on, it matters where you stay. Enjoy comfortable rooms and friendly service when you stay with Hilton instead. Save up to 25% this season when you book with Hilton. Hilton for the stay. Terms apply.
Okay, to close, I want to play a rapid fire game with you. So you're going to pick some favorites. Okay, your favorite season for baking?
Favorite season for baking is fall. So right now.
Your favorite cookbook?
Favorite cookbook? Ooh.
Or a favorite cookbook?
A favorite cookbook. Favorite cookbook? I really love Gina De Palma's books. Famed pastry chef of Babbo. And I learned about her mainly through Melissa Weller. And I think her books are not in print anymore, so you have to look hard for them. But they're
set your
wonderful.
eBay alerts.
Yeah, exactly.
Your favorite food neighborhood in New York?
Favorite food neighborhood in New York is the East Village.
A favorite quick lunch spot in New York?
Quick lunch spot would be Carol's Bun, which is around the corner from Elbow.
Your favorite occasion restaurant?
Occasion restaurant is Cafe Sabarsky. If your occasion is before 8 p.m.
And involves strudel.
It involves strudel, exactly. Anything involving strudel is an occasion.
Yeah, that is the occasion. A favorite bar in New York?
Favorite bar in New York is, it's a restaurant too, but Ruffian, drinking wine at Ruffian.
Mm-hmm. A favorite bakery that's not in New York?
Favorite bakery not in New York is Comadre in Austin by Mariella, who is, I feel like, such a kind of kindred spirit. We just got to spend some time together recently and just love everything that she's baking there.
Okay, finally, a fictional food scene, like from a book or a movie or something made up that you wish you could eat in real life.
Okay, so this is, I feel like my spin on it is like, this is something that I saw in a movie that I made in real life at Elbow.
Okay.
Which is the Charlotte Russe scene, which is in Once Upon a Time in America, which is a Sergio Leone movie from the 80s. But it's about, like, Italian Americans, Jewish Americans on the Lower East Side. I think it spans a few different eras. Anyway, so Patsy goes to, as like a young kid, he goes to this bakery and gets, orders a Charlotte Russe which is like a little cake with cream. It's like the
lady fingers.
Exactly. But this is kind of like there's like a New York version of it that's kind of like dumbed down, for lack of a better term, streamlined. And it's in a little push-up cup. And it's like a disc of cake, jam, cream on top. And you would find them at like Italian American, Jewish American bakeries. I think they cost like a nickel or something. They're like in this category of like nickel treats. And yeah, there's a whole context that I won't go into in the scene. Everyone should watch it. But he just like ends up eating this cake like alone in a staircase of like a tenement building. And there's like Ennio Morricone like playing in the background. Anyway, so I totally romanticized that. And like we made Charlotte Russe at Elbow because of that scene, basically.
I love that kind of wish fulfillment and that you have your own space to do that. Zoe, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Aliza.
Grayson Samuels, this is Taste. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I'm super happy to have you here. You're one of my favorite writers to edit at Taste and just kind of people to chat with. And you came bearing pastries, which is always extra nice.
I did some good stuff from my favorite Italian bakery on Court Street.
Yeah, what's your plan when you go into an Italian bakery? What kinds of things do you gravitate towards?
Rainbow cookie, #1. But then I just sort of like leave it to who's behind the counter. I usually want like a mixed box of cookies like that. And I'm just like, give me your best stuff. And then I trust them.
And you go by weight that you want or something?
Yeah. I was like, I want a pound of mixed cookies. She said, say less. There we are. Yeah.
Shout out to Court Street Pastry Shop in
Indeed.
Carroll Gardens.
My favorite.
I love that. I think it's certainly a little bit of a sugar rush for me right now, which is a good place to be chatting from. And I have a lot of different topics I want to get into with you. But I guess to start, I'm wondering if you can share an early food memory with me from growing up that you think somehow encapsulates your perspective on food.
Yeah. It's not one that I like grew up eating. It's not something I grew up eating, but the Travel Channel was huge for me and the way that they covered food. Specifically, Andrew Zimmern, really, really loved his show. And Samantha Brown, who is still making a show. She makes a show called Places to Love, which is on season 9. But sort of in like her heyday, when I was probably like, I don't know, 7 to 11, she had 2 big shows. It was called Great Hotels and Passport to Europe. And on both, she would like, Great Hotels, she would go to great hotels and she would sort of tour the space, try the restaurants. And in Passport to Europe, she would go to European cities and sort of, work through the city. But I think the way that like both of them explored food, it was always about like the people behind it who was making the food. And they approached them with like such kindness and curiosity and like a way to really get to know the person. And it made me really excited about food, specifically Samantha Brown. Like she was really, really formative. She made me really excited to travel, made me excited to try different things at a young age. And she lives in my neighborhood now. And every now and then I see her on the street and I'll just like stop her and be like, I love your show. I've done this a few times. I don't know if she remembers.
By the third time, she's like, Grayson, I get it. You're a fan.
No, I know. I'm like, I just think she's fantastic. And yeah, her show was so formative and it really sparked a love of just getting to know people through what they're eating.
And you were watching this like in the living room in St. Petersburg, Florida, where you grew up? Or?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My family's like big TV room. And I'd like, get home after school, make a grilled cheese. And I'd sort of, put the DVR onto Great Hotels. And I was really, really obsessed with her to a point of when we would like go to Orlando on vacation. And if we were like going to a hotel that she had stayed at, I would go to the room that she had stayed in, like on the show, and just sort of like touch the door just in like a Samantha Brown was here. It was major. It was wild.
You're so cute. Oh my God. This is like really sweet. My dream 8-year-old child is going on a pilgrimage to a TV channel's hotel room.
It's like really niche and like super gay, of course.
Yeah, that's my dream child. So I kind of love that.
Yeah.
I feel like it's interesting to think about travel and hotels as a kid that doesn't really have access to those things necessarily. Yeah. Do you feel like you had a moment later on, maybe, I don't know, did you go to Europe and feel like you were in your TV channel moment, or how did you kind of evolve that relationship over time?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I had access to travel as a child. We would go to Orlando a lot, which was really great. But I think like once I was able to sort of get out of the country, I remember going to Europe maybe, I think the first time we went to London when I was like in 5th grade, and I really loved that. And I loved the food. I just loved like being in a different culture, being in a different environment that was so different from like the Gulf beaches of Florida. And then I went to like France and Spain in high school. And I think it's funny to do that like as a teenager with your parents because you're just like a little angsty and a little like mad the whole time. But it does make you want to like explore yourself as a person more at that age in a different setting. That was pretty cool.
So I'm getting like kind of the storytelling roots maybe that trickle into who you are today. Another big part of your identity, I think, is as a pastry chef and a baker. And I'm wondering if you just tell me a little bit about what was your background like. Maybe I know you have some theater background, and then kind of like how that came into food as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started acting as a probably like 9-year-old, 10-year-old, just like summer camp, and I really like stuck to it for a really long time. And before that, funny enough, I wanted to be a writer. There's a great writing institute in St. Petersburg called the Poynter Institute, and I would do summer camps there. I think I did that for a few years, and I really like wanted to go into journalism when I was really, really young. And then I remember like I have a memory of being in my living room, and my mom had brought up a summer camp at the St. Petersburg City Theater. And they were doing Oliver, and she was like, "You should do that. Like, I think you'd be really good at this." And I remember being like, "No, I don't want to do that. I want to be a writer. I don't want to like be an actor." And she was like, "You should just try it. Maybe get some like energy out." And I went, and I was cast as the like 60-year-old villain in Oliver
Every
as a
mom's
12-year-old, of course. And I loved it. I loved like just stepping into like a different world, and more so I loved just the community aspect of it and being around other kids that had a lot of energy and wanted a place to get it out. And so I really stuck to that for a really long time. I did a lot of community theater, and I went to a performing arts high school, and then I got my BFA in musical theater at Texas State University. And when I graduated and I got to New York City, the sort of reality of the business of theater hit me like a brick wall. And it was like the hardest few months of my life, just understanding that like this might be harder than I thought it was going to be. I don't have any other skills, didn't do anything else for over a decade. And that was really tough. So during COVID, I wanted to sort of step into cooking a little bit. I knew I wanted to work in a kitchen in New York in some capacity. When I was living in Texas, I was south of Austin, and I was really, really into the McGuire Mormon Hospitality Group in Austin, which owns Elizabeth Street Cafe, June's All Day, Joanne's Fine Foods. And I don't know, I think they really showed me for the first time the sort of like intersection between restaurants and theater, in the same way that like a play is its own world, its own story on stage, a restaurant is the same thing. And to sort of like step into a restaurant that feels like its own world where all of these, aspects are coming together to tell one story, I saw those similarities instantly. And that made me really, invested in exploring food in some way, and didn't really have a goal of what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to do like front of house or back of house. But when I was living in Florida, I worked at a bakery for about 8 months. So that sort of put me like on the pastry route. And then when I moved back to New York, I was like looking at pastry cook jobs, and I joined the team at Gage and Tollner. And that's when it sort of moved on from there.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think you're right. There is such a pageantry and showmanship to running a restaurant, being in theater, and certainly there's a long tradition of actors working as servers, I think, especially. So it's interesting to me that you chose to go back of house and work in pastry. And Gage and Tollner is like, to me, one of the most cinematic theatrical restaurants in New York. It's so historic as a dining room, and a lot of the pastry, specifically like Baked Alaska, like she's the diva of the dessert menu.
In a big way.
Yeah. What was it like working there? And I guess what drew you to the pastry side specifically?
I don't know. I love dessert. I love it a lot. I think I love the technique behind pastry. I liked that a lot of it consisted of like more like slower daytime prep. It wasn't so like intense as like cooking during dinner, even though I did end up doing a bit of that at Gage. Working at Gage was fascinating. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I had not worked in fine dining before, like going to Gage or working in, a bigger restaurant. And Caroline Schiff, who was the pastry chef there at the time, I met with her, and it was exciting. She was, saying like, this is going to be a really buzzy restaurant opening, and it's going to be a really exciting time. I interviewed right after they had reopened, sort of right before the New York Times review had come out. And I went back and trailed. I remember like plating for Adam Platt on my trail, which was like very nerve-wracking for somebody who's very new to New York restaurants. And it was really trial by fire. I was doing some prep, but I was doing a lot of plating dessert at the restaurant when I joined. I think I started with like Friday, Saturday, Sunday plating dessert. And at that time, we were doing like 300 covers a night, and that was just one person on the pastry line. And people were going for dessert. People were going for Caroline's menu, which was and continues to be really fantastic. It was just really intense of like seeing all these tickets pop up, and some of them are timed out, and you're surrounded by all of these cooks who have done this a lot longer than I have. And it was really scary, but it really taught me how to do it.
Yeah.
In a huge way. Like Caroline was such a great mentor to me, but also Catherine Irizarry, who took over her position, and they've both continued to be great mentors to me in pastry.
Yeah, I think it must be really special also to be a part of just a long tradition. Edna Lewis was the chef at Gage and Tallner back in the day. Like there's been so many people that have gone through that dining room, and I think to be serving like the American classic desserts is not necessarily something everyone has the opportunity to do.
No, it was really neat. It made me feel, I think when I moved to New York City for the first time, I had a really tough relationship to it. I didn't feel like I had a place here, especially as an actor. And this made me feel like I had a place in New York City for the first time, being a part of something a lot bigger and like a big tradition, especially with Gage. And those baked Alaskas were so hard to plate when I started. I got really good at it.
Yeah, do you have any tips?
Yeah, totally. Just like think up. You just got to get some height to it.
Yeah, when you're piping the meringue.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of it's like, you're whipping them to order, and like each one makes about 2 or 3, and you just plop it on. You get your little offset spatula, and you start going. It's like really a muscle.
Gesturing happening in the studio. Yeah. And then how did you guys flambe it? Did you use a torch?
Yeah.
Okay, I've tried to do that before, and I don't have as much experience as you, and it was very stressful, and I kind of like lit it on fire too long, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's about like the distance from, I like to just keep maybe 6 inches, and I like keep the torch in one place, and then you turn the plate while you're going. Okay,
next time I make a baked Alaska, which is never again,
totally,
I'll do this. So after you were at Gage and Tallner, you went to Winner, and then you started your own pastry pop-up called Guest Check here in New York. What made you want to kind of go the pop-up route?
Yeah, I think when I was at Winner, Ali Spar was the pastry chef when I joined, and I learned croissant lamination under her, and I mostly did croissants there. But probably after like 4 or 5 months of being there, she and Andrew Eulis, who was the sous chef, they were like, you should try like doing your own specials on the weekends. You understand flavors really well. Why don't you do some like twice baked croissants or danishes? So I started doing that, and it was a blast. It was so fun to like not really have any restrictions, to have a full kitchen sort of at my disposal to play around with. And once I got, going there, I was like, I want to do something that just feels like my own, just for fun. I want to cook for my friends, and I want to have them, come to my house and get some pastries. So yeah, that's what I did. I started Guest Check in August 2 years ago, 2023. And it started as a pastry box pickup from my house, and my friends placed orders over Instagram DM, and it was a blast. And then I started doing it at restaurants. I've done it at Margot, Public Records. It was nice to just try out my own stuff, and it still is, it's a nice creative thing.
Yeah, it's so much work, I think, to be moving, especially from producing in a like professional kitchen to out of your New York City apartment. Whenever I talk to people who do pop-ups, just the sheer amount of logistics is so much.
It's so much. I mean, it dictates the menu. There's so much that I would love to do that I just can't do with my fridge space. So much of pastry is temperature control. So there's a lot I can't tackle, but still have fun with it. My favorite thing to do is kolaches. I think it's like such a great blank canvas to play around with flavors. So there's November 22nd, I'm coming up with another one. Yeah, Public Records. So gonna play around with some kolaches there. And
Vegan kolaches. Yeah. Our favorite vegan venue in New York.
Absolutely. Good club too.
That'll be really fun. I feel like it's fun to have kolaches in the mind because I think one of the things that you do really well as a writer is focusing on like regional food stories. And that's been certainly some of the stories that you've done at Taste. Do you feel like that's something that you're drawn to?
Yeah, big time. I think there's so many stories that I hear about or, read about that I think if they were in New York City, they'd be covered instantly. And just because they're, in the South or in the Midwest, that they're not getting such coverage, I think that's a real shame. So, yeah, I'm really interested in that. I'm really interested in writing about Florida and like sort of understanding where I grew up in a different way. I think I took it for granted as a child. It just didn't understand what a beautiful state it is and the tension between the politics and the beauty of the, nature of the state. It's a state of extremes. It's extreme heat, extreme politics. It's a really like divisive place. And to understand that as an adult, especially not living there all the time, I love writing about it to try and understand it.
Yeah, I think Florida looms so large in the national imagination, in the global imagination, certainly like the Florida Man, like news stories of it all. What are some of the Florida foodways that you think have been like especially interesting to focus on?
I think there's so many restaurants that have been there for so long and hold so many great traditions. I wrote about Ted Peters' famous smoked fish, which is a place in St. Petersburg. It's like a roadside fish shack. It's an open air dining room, and it's been around for, over 70 years. And it's not changed once. Everything's the same. The plates are the same. The menus are the same. It's the same preparation for the smoked fish. And, smoking fish is one of the oldest fish preservation practices in Florida. And it's an amazing tradition. It's a delicious tradition. There's so many other restaurants that have been around forever. There's one called the Columbia in Tampa, which was opened in the early 1900s. It's not only the oldest Colombian restaurant in New York or in Florida, but it's the oldest restaurant in Florida, continually operated. And it's a huge dining room in Ybor City, which is historically a cigar manufacturing neighborhood. And it's delicious. I don't think the Cubano was invented at Columbia, but it was invented in Ybor City. And there's just such rich tradition there. Just these long sort of cultural traditions that are sustained for a really long time. I'm so invested in.
Yeah, you were recently telling me about, what's that steakhouse that has the whole floor of desserts? Yeah,
Burns Steakhouse, which is in Tampa and is one of, is a very nationally recognized steakhouse. And above it is the Harry Waugh Dessert Room, which has 48 private individual dining rooms that are all enclosed in their own red oak wine casks. And in each little dining room, there's a telephone, landline telephone, that goes to the, you can call the live pianist directly to request a song. And the pianist has been there for 20 years. He's there every night. So fascinated by it. And it looks like a haunted house inside. There's nothing like it. And the menu's amazing. It's very special.
Yeah, I think like my grin just gets bigger and bigger the more you talk about it, because that is the kind of hospitality we are missing in New York, is an on-demand piano player with a landline.
I know. Like, get Le Vaudor to get a live pianist in there. It'd be unbelievable.
That would be really funny. Have you called in a request there before?
I don't think so. I haven't eaten there in a long time. I think the last time I was there was maybe 10 years ago, but I have secured a reservation for December.
Okay.
I'm going back with the fam, and I will be requesting, I don't know, some pop song. Maybe they can do Carly Rae Jepsen.
On the piano.
Sick.
You should think of a song that they would have to look up the chords
yes,
for.
he in interviews with the pianist, he said, if he doesn't know a song, he'll like pull it up on YouTube and learn it by ear in the moment. So
Wow.
I do want to sort of test him there.
That's hospitality.
Totally.
I think another story you wrote for Taste, maybe the first story you did for Taste that was so fun, was about actors who go on tour and the kind of food that they eat. What about that story kind of came to you and like made you think there was something to explore?
I think the interesting thing about it is like actors on tour are superheroes. They are juggling so much in their heads and physically. They're doing 8 shows a week. They're going town to town like every other day in some cases. And it's funny to think about one of the hardest things they have to deal with is what they're going to eat and how they're going to eat it. I have a lot of friends who've been on national tours. So I talked to them just about like how they did it. And a lot of people travel with like, hot plates in their suitcases or hot pots in their, big traveling boxes. And people got really creative, really, really creative. Some people were like frying chicken in their hotel rooms, some curries like in the bathroom, stuff like that.
Yeah, there's like a hotel manager somewhere that was reading that article being like, no wonder this room smelled like whatever afterwards.
Absolutely. It was freaking out. I think they also have a really great point of view on just national trends of what's happening nationally. There's so few people who travel the country like that for a whole year and get to hit some really amazing spots. I think the thing that is tough about it is there are actors who are in shows that are on union contracts and they get paid a good amount of money to do what they do. And then there are actors who are on contracts that are not represented by the actors union and they're getting paid a quarter of the price. They're on shorter runs in smaller cities. So they don't have the same access that somebody who's maybe on the Hamilton tour, or on the Wicked tour, who can, take a night, go to the French Laundry if they're over in Napa. They can't do the same. And a lot of national tours are starting to go on lower contracts, paying less. And it was interesting to talk to people who are on those non-union tours about what they need.
Yeah, I was going to kind of say, I think the level of access people have to food is really interesting because part of it is this way of getting to, explore the country, go to a restaurant that you've heard about in a town. Maybe it's cooking to make yourself feel closer to home when you feel far away, or it's a reality of like, I only have X amount of money to feed myself today, so I'm going to make ramen in my hotel room, and like that's going to be the meal for the day.
Yeah, and balancing too, like doing 8 shows a week is so physically taxing that you have to be eating a certain way to perform like that.
Yeah.
And eating, ramen or a cheap meal for every, lunch break, they can't sustain that. So.
Yeah, I'm just thinking also about like what it must be like to be performing the same thing but in a completely different setting all of the time. And if you are on Broadway and you live here in New York, you can at least like sleep in your own bed and have your own pre-show routine and go to Just Salad or wherever you want to get in Midtown. But when all of the variables around you are so different and then you also need to have the same quality performance, it just seems like really hard.
Really hard. Yeah, I mean, it makes me think of like I spoke with Talia Suskauer, who was playing Lucille Frank in Parade, which is a very politically charged musical about the, very unfair trial of Leo Frank in the early 1900s. And she played his wife in that. And I spoke with her just about, what's comforting to you about coming home after doing that performance. And she's saying like each audience is super different, especially with a performance like that. So it helps to sort of go back to your hotel room, and the constant thing is like your roommates baked some cupcakes, and that's very comforting, or baking some bread, and you can rely on that comfort.
Yeah, I think that does really resonate. I also really liked your interview with the actor who plays Kevin G in the tour Mean Girls. I felt so like tenderly towards him because he was packing like his Instant Pot and then all of his spices so that he could make like masala curry on the road. And like that's just like the level he really cares about food, clearly, and also the people around him that he wants to share that with them.
Yeah, shout out Kabir Gandhi. So sweet. Yeah, he was saying he travels with soy sauce and shampoo bottles, like travel shampoo bottles, which I think is such an amazing detail. Yeah, it's a way for him. He was saying to me, it's a way for him to connect with the other people of color on, his cast and to learn about each other through the foods that they grew up eating. It's such a great thing to have on the road for them.
Yeah, and I bet once you mix up the soy sauce once, you probably know that that's not going to be your shampoo.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not.
I love that. I think like looking at all of these stories, I guess the other taste story that I wanted to ask you about was you wrote about these peanuts that are made by the church in North Carolina.
Yeah.
How did you encounter these holy peanuts?
The holy peanuts. I saw them for the first time at Dimes Market, and I saw them and they made me crack up. I was like, what are these church peanuts doing at Dimes Market? Such a chic little spot. And I got them and I tried them, and they're the best peanuts in the world. They're so unbelievably tasty. They made me laugh. I just thought it was very funny. And I read more about them, and they're prepared by a group of people in the church kitchen in the Mount Olive Methodist Church. They do it about like once a month, and production really ramps up around the holidays. Church peanuts have a very long history, especially like in the Carolinas. They're not the only one that does them. There's many churches. Gets a little competitive. But it's a classic stocking stuffer. So they get very busy and then they take a break, in January, February. And they're just delicious. And I think, when I was thinking about that story and I was thinking about how I love writing about food, it's all stuff that I would love to see in a movie or on stage. It's just really, it's theatrical. I would love to know more about the people who are making these peanuts. Who are they? Why do they come back, every month to do this?
It could be a musical.
It could be a musical. It could be a musical.
The stirring of the peanuts is the background beat for the song.
Absolutely. I'll star in it. Let's do it. It'd be a blast.
I feel like we're on the verge of breaking into song right now, but
I think
luckily
so.
the song doesn't exist.
Taste the musical. This is Taste the Musical. But I think there's great storytelling is great storytelling, and I think that there's always a food angle, and that always interests me.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Do you have any dream, bigger writing projects that you would want to do?
Yeah, I really, really loved Eric Wareheim's Steakhouse. I was flipping through that, and I was just really loving the idea of just a regional book that follows a story sort of across the country. I would love to do something like that in Florida, write about Florida restaurants that have just been there for a long time and just chronicle them and the people who are keeping them open and talking to the people that have continued to go back for years and years. I would do that. I'd also love to write some fiction, maybe a play as well that's maybe a little food focused. There's not been many plays that are set in kitchens. There's been some.
Yeah, there's Waitress.
Classic, of course.
With the pie smell that they pipe into the theater.
Yeah. Bring back Waitress. Waitress did come back. Anyways, I could go on and on about that. But yeah, I would love to sort of see what that looks like.
I love the idea of a Florida book for you. I can see it now. I think it needs the same beautiful kind of portraits that Eric Wareheim's book Steakheim had, and that kind of storytelling. There are so many characters in that book, and he obviously is a comedian and an actor and has that kind of background. So I think it makes sense that you would be drawn to that element as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I just love to tackle all the places I grew up eating that are still there.
Yeah. I think something I really appreciate whenever I get a draft from you as an editor is that you seem very eager to talk to sources and get good quotes from people. And I think a lot of people, especially writers that are just starting out, are kind of nervous about the reporting part of the process. And I was curious if you have any kind of strategies for getting people to open up to you and tell stories.
Yeah. It's something that Samantha Brown does really well on the Travel Channel.
It's all back to Samantha Brown.
It is. What she really does when she's talking to people and wanting to get them talking about something that is exciting to them is to meet them with the same excitement. When I was speaking to Michael Affatato, who's the owner of the Village Cheese Shop in New York, I was just, I started out by saying, I know you carry these peanuts. They're the best peanuts in the world. What do people think about them? And he was like, you're right. These are the best peanuts. People love them. And yeah, I think like if you can just meet somebody where they're at or where, you hope they're at, you can get a lot out of them. He was such a great source. There was so much that he said that I didn't put in the piece. I could have just interviewed him about the church peanuts. He was so enthusiastic.
I think that's one of the great things about food writing also is that most of the time, people are really passionate about what they're doing, and they're just looking for somebody to give them space to really kind of pop off about it.
Absolutely. It's what I love, like, about talking about restaurants with my friends. Just talking about a great restaurant with somebody who loves the same restaurant. You can just go on and on about, oh, God, I loved the chocolate mousse. Chocolate mousse was so, so good. And you know that this other person appreciates it, and it feels great. You're just making each other feel good, remembering a great meal.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, I did not warn you about this, but I feel like one of the worst things to have to do as a New Yorker is planning where to eat around the theater district, because often people come to town and they want to go see a play and they're asking for recommendations, and it's just a pretty tough neighborhood. And I feel like you probably spend a lot of time going to plays, and I'm curious if you have any recommendations.
Yeah. I mean, my first answer is not a serious answer, or maybe it is. The Raising Cane's in Times Square is unstoppable. The way that it's so packed in there, but they get the food out so quickly is amazing. I love Raising Cane's.
There aren't that many. There's like 2 in New York probably. So it is kind of like a destination restaurant for a New Yorker at least.
Yeah, it's very like big for Europeans who are coming here. I was like watching some TikTok of a woman from England who came, and she was like, we're in New York for 3 days. We've eaten at Raising Cane's 4 times. Probably going to go back before we leave. It's such a cult favorite. It is very good. There is 3 or 4 Raising Cane's in New York. I have been to the opening day of 2 of them.
Not the immediate fact check about how many Raising Cane's there are.
I'm like, wait a minute.
You've been to all of them?
I've been to 3 of them. I was at opening day.
What's your order?
Well, there's not many options. They have chicken tenders, and it just depends on how hungry you are, how many you want to get.
And the Texas toast, right? Also.
Texas toast. So my order is box combo, no slaw, add extra fries, add honey mustard.
Okay.
But besides Raising Cane's in the theater district, I really love La Rock at Rockefeller Center.
Mm-hmm.
That's quite delicious. I live in Brooklyn, so if I'm in to see a show, I'll eat like downtown Manhattan and then take the train up.
Yeah, that's very reasonable.
I don't know. I'm sure people have a better answer. It's tough out there.
No, I like these. I think they're good recommendations. And I guess on the theater side, I feel like you go to a lot of shows. Do you just rely on recommendations from people that you know in the industry, or how do you decide like what show you actually want to go and see?
Most of the time, yeah. Most of the time, I feel like I'm just talking to friends, or I have a lot of friends that work in the theater, so I'll go see friends' shows. But it's mostly word of mouth, I would say. Every now and then I'll check into the publications. If there's something off Broadway that's really interesting, and there's a review of it, I'll go if I love the review. But Broadway's in such a funny place right now. I think it's really hard to sell a Broadway show. It's really commercial.
Yeah.
At this, post-COVID moment, I think the best stuff is off Broadway at the smaller, like nonprofit theaters.
Have you seen anything off Broadway that you've been like, I can just tell this is going to be successful?
Yeah, I mean, I saw this and it was very successful, but I saw Stereophonic when it was off Broadway, and which is about sort of loosely inspired by Fleetwood Mac recording Rumors, and it's a fictional band. But I saw it when it was at Playwrights Horizons, and I sat second row with my friend, and it was so unbelievable. You're really like in that story, and I remember intermission coming along and just thinking, oh, this is going to be so huge. This is going to be really, really big. And then it transferred to Broadway, and it won a bunch of Tonys, and it's gone to the West End, and maybe there will be a movie. I'm imagining there will be.
Yeah.
It was great. I mean, I think it was one of those stories that you just get really dropped into. It was a live band on stage, like really playing the music, and the score was so great. That was really exciting.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I feel like my best claim to fame is that I saw Hadestown when it was off Broadway in the East Village. And I had listened to that album a lot already, so that's how I had known to go and see it when they were turning it. They adopted it from an album into a play, basically.
Yeah.
And then I went back to see it on Broadway as well, and it was just like so consistently excellent. But I think it's kind of like when you go to a restaurant when it just opened, like before the review comes out, and then you feel like you are like beating the crowd a little bit.
Yeah, totally. You want to go like tell everybody about it. It's really exciting.
Yeah, except for plays can like accommodate a bigger crowd than the restaurant. You know, when you go to like a 10-seat restaurant, you don't want to tell everyone because then you're not going to be able to go eat there anymore.
Totally. Haven't been to Haas Snack Bar yet.
Oh, I can take you.
Let's go.
Whenever you want.
Let me know. I'll be there. See you later.
I think it is like that same kind of feeling of buzz and energy and like just like you want the crowd to be good in the restaurant in the same way as you want the crowd to be good at the play.
Totally.
I want to play a rapid fire game with you to close today. I'm going to make you play some favorites.
Do it.
Okay. Your favorite cookbook right now?
Linger by Hedy Lou McKinnon.
Your favorite like writer whose food writing you love to read?
I really love Helen Rosner. I love her sense of humor. And I really like Jay Lee at Interview.
Mm-hmm. Something that you will never make from scratch?
Okay. I might get hate for this, but I just don't want to make pasta. I don't want to do it. I don't think I'm very good at it.
Like the noodle.
Fresh pasta.
Fresh pasta.
I'd rather just get fresh pasta from somebody who makes it very well.
I think that's very fair.
Thanks.
Your favorite bakery in New York?
Radio Bakery.
Your favorite like quick lunch spot?
S&P Lunch and Court Street Grocers, same group, so I'll put them together.
Yeah. What's your like Court Street order?
The Ollie, add bacon. I'm sort of famous for that.
Okay, and where?
At Court Street Grocers, yes. And S&P tuna melt.
I love the tuna melt at S&P.
That's so good.
My Court Street order is the Vegetalian, which I think is the greatest vegetarian sandwich I've ever had. It has butternut squash, roasted butternut squash is like the meat of it.
One of just the best sandwiches ever. It's such a satisfying sandwich. It's so crunchy, and the it's squash, right? The squash is so delicious. I love it.
Your favorite special occasion restaurant in New York?
Romans.
Your favorite bookstore?
Books are magic.
Your favorite musical? Is that insane?
Oh, no. Oh, it's so tough. The Light in the Piazza by Adam Gettle.
Okay. Your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, This Kiss by Faith Hill.
That's so good. Okay, finally, a fictional food scene, like from a book or a movie that you wish you could eat in real life.
The bruschetta scene in Julie and Julia, when they're like, it's sort of at the top of the movie. Chris Messina takes like the most erotic bite of it, and it just looks so delicious. The whole movie is food styled so beautifully.
Yeah, I love that thought, and this whole conversation has been so fun, Grayson. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
This is Taste is hosted and produced by Matt Rodbard and me, Aliza Barbanel. The show is edited by lead producer Clayton Gumbert and supervised by Pat Stango, Director of Media Production and Development at Penguin Random House. Thanks to Shalia Harris and the production team at Penguin Random House. Theme music by Steve Rydell. Episode portraits by Louise Zergang Pomeroy. Logo design by Ellie Skurzat and Ian Dingham. Visit Taste online at tastecooking.com. And make sure to subscribe to our newsletter to keep updated on all cool things in the world of taste.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. You know, one of the perks about having 4 kids that you know about is actually getting a direct line to the big man up north. And this year, he wants you to know the best gift that you can give someone is the gift of Mint Mobile's unlimited wireless for $15 a month. Now, you don't even need to wrap it. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.